Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Empire Soccer Report. Episode 11 feels crazy that we're already in the double digits here on this brand new show. I'm James Birle, back for another episode talking New York Red Bulls, Red Bull New York, soccer around the New York area, and more. Today I'm joined by Michael Battista of New York Sports Nation, and it's a big week to invite this man in. He's got the Cosmos shirt, who debuted their USL League One opener last weekend. And the U.S. Open Cup is back. So we have to have Michael Battista, one of the foremost experts on grassroots soccer in the country. First and foremost, Michael, how's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. A lot of stuff going on right now around soccer. National the final World Cup playoff is just around the corner. MLS is still just chugging along. MLS is getting into that groove, let's call it. And yeah, a lot of stuff happening locally.
Lots of stuff happening locally and nationally. Of course, the U.S. men's national team squad is out for their second to last batch of friendlies before the World Cup. We've still got the intercontinental playoffs that you alluded to. Representing our region locally is Suriname and Jamaica, waiting for their squads to come out. But we got the U.S. squad, 27 players under Mauricio Pochettino. No real surprises here, if I'm being honest. And now we're at the point where it finally is starting to look a little bit clearer who's going to be at the World Cup. Matt Turner, Matt Freese, Chris Brady, Roman Celentano in goal. Freese, I think, is the apparent number one moving forward. It'd be something spectacular coming from Matt Turner to kind of unseat him. No surprise with any of the defense, some injuries here and there. No surprises with the midfielders other than the fact that Gio Reyna's in there. Diego Luna's back from injury, but we're not quite fit to get into the team. And then Patrick Agyemang returns. I mean, nothing crazy to say about this U.S. national team, but it is news. They'll play Belgium and Portugal next week. Just wanted to get this out. Some MLS players in the team: Sebastian Berhalter in the midfield, Christian Roldan as well, Max Arfston, Miles Robinson, and Tim Ream are across the back, and of course, all four goalkeepers coming from MLS. Some international news as it relates to the Red Bulls, though, Michael, is Jahkeele Marshall-Rutty is called into the Canadian national team. He's been pretty decent through the first four matches of the Red Bulls season. Some injuries to the fullbacks for Canada. Most obviously, Alphonso Davies is injured again. So Marshall-Rutty gets into the national team under Jesse Marsch, our old friend, Mike. So quick thoughts, if you have any, on Jahkeele Marshall-Rutty and his season so far.
It's interesting because he only had how many weeks of preseason with the team because he was a late addition.
Yeah, 1.5, if that.
1.5. So that back four line, first two games looked very good. Third game did not. Fourth game, okay. So it's just he's started the season pretty well. Nothing to talk home about. I don't know if you can hear the dude just revving his engine outside.
I
That's
got it a
great.
little bit. It muffled, yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, you gotta love it. The weather's getting real. The weather perked up for a minute. But you're like, oh yeah, it's time to rev this baby. But yeah, Ruddy is just kind of no. I don't mean this in a bad way. He's just doing fine for me, and the mistakes of the team are not really his mistakes. But I'm surprised he got called up. To be perfectly honest.
Mm-hmm. I think the steadiness has been welcome. It hasn't been spectacular from Jahkeele Marshall-Rutty. Still 21 years old. I think he's been a brighter spot than some folks would have thought initially. And I agree that it's a bit of a surprise. If he gets on the field, it would be his first cap for the Canadian senior men's team. And I think he's really only there because of the injuries to players like Alphonso Davies. But nonetheless, a big moment for him. Very happy for him. And I hope he impresses our former friend Jesse Marsch if he does, in fact, get on the pitch for Canada's games against Iceland and Tunisia. As for some other defense news around the club, of course, Justin Che, we saw him go down with an injury against Toronto. Confirmed today that that's going to be for some extended period of time. He joins Dylan Nealis on the injured list, who's still working his way back into training. And if there was going to be reinforcements coming at the defense, we still don't know yet. Julian Bazan, the Colombian youth international, who's coming from Deportivo Pereira, still has not yet been announced by the club, despite confirming his departure, completing his medical with Red Bull Bragantino. But once again, Michael Battista, perhaps the visa department for the Red Bulls becomes a deterrent for bringing players in quickly. You think that's the case here once again?
Yeah. It just feels like it always happens with this team. The summer window has always been the funnest because you'll just have a guy sign in June and then he won't start playing until August because of visa issues. I'm not. We won't know if that's the actual answer, but I have a feeling.
Yeah, I mean, we've been here before. We
Yeah.
don't know for sure, but this sort of thing has happened. So yeah, a lot of exciting things in international soccer. Um, Good to see Jahkeele Marshall-Rutty get into the Canadian national team. Justin Che is going to be out after that injury he suffered late against Toronto. Wasn't the only late dramatics against that Toronto team. Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting gets his first goal of the season in the 97th minute to secure a 1-1 draw and Michael Bradley's return to Toronto. Of course, they went down 1-0 late in the first half on a Daniel Shalloy counterattack goal. An interesting one in at BMO Field. I thought the Red Bulls looked like the better team for most of that game, but that's not how the cookie always crumbles. They maybe would have felt like they deserved 3 points, but they were very grateful in the end to get just one with that goal, with essentially the last kick of the game. Choupo-Moting finally gets on the score sheet this season, Michael. A big, big point in the end in what was otherwise a very, very interesting game that looked like it was going to be a loss.
I mean, yeah. Following the Montreal game, I feel like there were a lot of eyes on New York to see how they would respond, and they didn't impress because they just did. They came out flat-footed. They just were not cohesive enough against a Toronto team that's better than Montreal, but still middle of the pack.
Mhm.
Still probably the best team that Red Bull has played so far this
Yeah,
season.
true.
But I feel like fans were expecting a little bit more. To come away with a point is almost it's just like embedded, like, oh well, good thing we got a point out of this. But with how the team was playing, people could have expected this to be a 3 point game. But yeah, there was nothing really to write home about except that like late dramatic.
And I think the performance prior to that goal that ended up sealing the point kind of suggested that they deserved more than just one. The way that they conceded the goal was pretty ugly. They threw numbers forward for the corner as they have been doing all season long, and they got beat on the counterattack. Matty Dos Santos, who I think for me was great in the first two matches, hasn't looked quite as good in against Montreal and against Toronto. Maybe it's just playing against Canadian teams isn't his strong suit. But he got beat on that goal, was a little bit caught in no man's land, and then it's an excellent finish from Daniel Shalloy. Um, but I agree with you. This Toronto team has been the best they've played all year. Still a team that, at their best is middle of the pack in the Eastern Conference. And they didn't even have their premier new designated player striker on the pitch for more than 25 minutes in Josh Sargent. Yet the Red Bulls struggled in the final third throughout the game until, they happened upon that goal. Mostly unchanged lineup. Voladair stepped in for Dylan Nealis at the center back position for the second match in a row. Donkor returned to the lineup. I mean, he is crucial to this team. It is very clear that when he's not there, the heart just doesn't beat as fast. And then No Cade Cowell, who was welcoming the birth of his daughter. Congratulations to him and his wife. They
Mm-hmm.
missed that match. Mohamed Sofo, good to see him return, but didn't see too much from him. And it's another game where the wingers, I feel like, so much of the attack for Red Bull comes through those wide players, yet they still haven't been able to capture any magic in the final third. And I think that's kind of been the biggest issue with New York in terms of creating goals. They do so well to dominate the ball and get in good areas, but it's the final pass, it's the final product that's been missing. And that was the problem again against Toronto.
It's interesting because this is a team that traditionally doesn't play wing, and
Mm-hmm.
the wing is just becoming so crucial right now. That's the reason why once he gets healthy, Cam Harper probably, he's going to be battling for a spot, but that's where he could really shine if he gets that spot on
Definitely.
the side. Versus just, what's the other option? Like you use Mehmeti to go up the side, then try and get the haul. Like it's, or Choupo, whatever is available. It's, the wing is where it is. That's where it was in the first two games, and then we saw that disappear when they put Hall in the middle. We saw it disappear.
Yeah. And I think that was a pretty clear example of just trying to get all your best players on the field at once, and it handcuffed Julian Hall into being a player that he's just not. And that didn't work against Charlotte. Excuse me, against Montreal. Now in the next match against Charlotte, they're going to have I would argue is a tougher test in terms of the squad that they're up against. I haven't seen too much excitement from Charlotte's team in their first four matches, but on paper, certainly the toughest team the Red Bulls will have faced to this point. And in the second half, I saw better things from New York against Toronto, but they were honestly lucky to not have gone down 2-0 late in that game. Some really big chances for the home side. Didn't quite pull out that second goal. Horvath had to be big, and he was. So a well-earned, hard-fought point for Red Bull. They probably would have liked to have done better. Again, Audrey Mehmeti has been spectacular. You can tell that he's just a level above any other type of player the Red Bulls have had in this position because he doesn't just get stuck into challenges. He doesn't just read the game well, but he challenges the opponent. He puts in really good line breaking passes. He is that good at this young age. And we were lucky enough to get the chance to speak with him ahead of Saturday's match against Charlotte. Here is Audrey Mehmeti.
Hey, Audrey, thank you for the time. You've mentioned multiple times and have received some praise for the maturity that you've shown on the pitch, the composure you have with the ball. It shows in the way that you play football. But combining that with the amount of attention that Red Bull has now gotten for this youth movement that you are at the center of, how has it been for you to balance between getting all this praise and continuing to be a cool, calm head on the pitch day in and day out?
It all comes back down to training every day, you know, working as hard as I can, you know. All the guys here, Michael's been doing a really good job, I think, pushing everybody to give everything they have in training, you know, especially when you push on the harder days, making hard, every pass hard, every press, you know, trying to make the other team build out as good as they can. And then, yeah, I mean, again, I take it day by day. You know, I think I'm doing very, very well. And again, game by game, you know, I'm going to try to continue and develop my way of playing with the ball, without the ball, and just getting better every single day.
And after Audrey Mehmeti spoke with us, we also got the chance to chat with Michael Bradley. Here's what Michael Bradley had to say.
Thanks for the time, Michael. Perhaps a little bit overlooked from the equalizing goal against Toronto last weekend was Tanner Rossborough's work in winning that corner and then eventually fighting to keep that play alive before Choupo makes that finish. What do you think from Tanner's development this season? It has shown a lot of life coming off the bench in certain scenarios, especially against Toronto in the last match.
Yeah, Tanner's getting better every day. He's another one of our young players who, as we challenge him and push him on a daily basis in training, he's showing really good things and growing in every way. So we're really happy with him. You know, as we were putting things together before Toronto, when we knew that Cade was going to miss the game with the birth of his daughter, we were obviously disappointed to. Well, let me start at the beginning. Very happy for Cade and his wife. That's the most important thing. Disappointed on a selfish level to miss him for the game, but then also really excited because we knew that it was going to likely mean that we could get Tanner even more minutes than we had gotten him so far. You know, we brought him on in the first two games towards the end, and so as we were kind of looking at possibilities and potential substitutions, we knew that it was going to be a game where, as we got into the second half, Tanner was going to get a longer opportunity than he had up until that point. And so he earned that because he's pushed himself and has really improved in this last period every day in training. So he came on and you know, started on the left and made a bunch of good plays and was helping us. And then when we made another change or two, then we moved him to the right. And obviously that's where, you know, then at the end of the game, he's ready. He's in that good spot, you know, right off the edge of their left back and gets the ball played out in front of him. It's a little heavy, but his commitment to still seeing that play through and to making sure that we got a corner, you know, we made a big point of that during the weekend video, and it was awesome because you know, Choupo was the one who went out of his way to bring attention to that, and so that part inside our group was awesome.
Michael Bradley, high praise for his young players. Adrian Mehmeti showing maturity. Happy to get the chance to speak with both of them. Again, 1-1 draw against Toronto FC. Could have been better, could have been worse. They survived it at the end, scraped out a point with Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting. And like we said, toughest match they'll have yet to this point, match day 5. They have to travel to Bank of America Stadium to face Charlotte FC. Famously, the home team always wins in this matchup. Red Bulls dominate Charlotte at Red Bull Arena / Sports Illustrated Stadium. Charlotte dominates the Red Bulls at Bank of America Stadium. Not the greatest start to the season for Charlotte, but on paper, one of the strongest teams in the Eastern Conference. Michael, how do you see this matchup shaking out?
Look, Charlotte's a really weird team. They're in it's 5 weeks in. We're talking about playoff picture, but they're 6th in the East right now. I know that doesn't matter, but like when you started the season getting points in 3 of your 4 games, 2 draws and a win. I forget who their win was against, but it's that kind of team where their offense is producing enough when it matters. The defense is okay, but is slipping up where it matters. Overall, like you said, their last match was against it was the 0-0 draw against Inter Miami. Mm-hmm. The interesting thing to me was they crushed Austin, and that was a week after they got crushed by LA Galaxy, and it still feels weird to say LA Galaxy is winning games. So for right now, it's hard to nail them down. This is a team that could finish top half of the East or bottom half of the East, and we're still like figuring it out.
And if I may, on paper, their attack should be more fruitful than it's been. Pep Biel's got 3 goals. He leads the team. Edon Toklamadi's got 1. Their main guy is Wilfried Zaha. And once again, the fouls just seem to find him on the pitch wherever he goes. He gets hacked. He gets fouled. He always has players glued to him, defending him. And he's got 1 assist on the year, but otherwise he's been pretty anonymous, considering the hype around the player that he is. You mentioned the defense. Tim Ream, for as much as I love him and what he was able to do for Red Bull New York early in his career and what he's done for the U.S. national team, looks like age is starting to catch up to him. So this is a team that's become increasingly vulnerable in defense, still strong in the midfield. Pep Biel, Ashley Westwood, Brant Bronico, that's a good midfield trio. Luca De La Torre coming back from concussion protocol. I'm not sure if he's going to be available. The front 3 of Lialabada, Toklamadi, and Zaha has not been good enough for my liking. And so with the Red Bulls going to be missing possibly their 2 starting center backs in Dylan Nealis and Justin Shea, I think this is an opportunity to go to Charlotte and do what they've never done before, which is get 3 points. Coming off of a good finish to a match where they would have liked to have gotten better, done better in terms of coming away with 3 points. This is a real chance for the Red Bulls to go away from home and get a result. They've drawn in Charlotte before a couple times. They've never won there. Charlotte's never won at Red Bull Arena or Sports Illustrated Stadium. So it's a classic MLS home team advantage type of tie. I do think Charlotte are building towards something, right? They have a strong team. They haven't quite shown it yet, other than that match against Austin, like you mentioned. They were pretty badly beaten by LA Galaxy, but they're coming off a 0-0 draw against Inter Miami. The Red Bulls are coming off a 1-1 draw against Toronto. I think this game really has the opportunity to be wide open, and I'm very interested about the midfield matchup for that reason. Westwood, 35 years old, experience playing in England, one of the more steady holding midfielders in Major League Soccer. And then on the other side, you've got Adrian Mehmeti, 16-year-old, one of the most exciting young midfield prospects in this league, in this country, in this continent. I think the game is going to be a midfield battle, and I think we're going to see a wide open game in terms of chances flying at either end. I'd like to say that the youth of Julian Hall maybe gets the better of the aging Tim Ream. But then on the other end, the inexperience of the Red Bulls backline could get undone by Wilfried Zaha. Where do you see this game going? Who do you think has the advantage? And then when we get to the end of it, we'll do score predictions.
This game seems like it's so evenly matched that I don't see either team having any sort of edge right now. I see this game as being a back and forth. either you're going to win off a fluke or you're going to tie. And I just don't see either team getting that foothold right now, just because Red Bull's still trying to figure out what they are. Are they young, or do they have to, are they young, or are they going to use Choupo? Charlotte's still, like you said, the offense hasn't been potent, so I don't. It's hard to see which team could find that lock here.
I agree, and I'm glad you mentioned the possibility of a fluke deciding one of the games because late last season in Charlotte, when the Red Bulls needed to get a win or at least a point to stay in the playoff race, of course we know how that ended. They missed the playoffs. They lost 1-0 to Charlotte on the road. Mohamed Sofo had a bad giveaway in the midfield. Tim Parker got beat in defense, and they conceded. That one mistake changed that game. That game that otherwise looked like it was destined to end 0-0. And I think while I do believe that this one will have more openness than the game did last year, I still think that one or two mistakes could decide it. And if you look at the unavailable players, I don't want to pick on Tim Parker because I do think he's got something to give. The center backs for Red Bull most likely will be Parker and Volader. Justin Che is going to be out for a little while. Dylan Neal is still working back to full fitness, according to what we heard from Michael Bradley. So I'm not entirely sure how they're going to line up, and that could be an opportunity for Charlotte, who have not quite gotten their attack going, to take advantage of what is going to be a second choice central defense pairing for the Red Bulls. Just to go through the starting lineups, because I have them here, my projected lineups. For the Red Bulls, Horvath in goal, Marshall-Rutty right back, Dos Santos left back. Like I said, Volader, Parker in the center defense. Midfield trio unchanged. Mehmeti will be partnered with Ronald Donkor, who, like I said, heartbeat of that Red Bulls midfield. Emil Forsberg in the attacking position. Right wing, returning to the lineup, will be Cade Cowell. Left wing, George Ruvalcaba. I think they'll go with Hall up front. Choupo-Moting worked off the bench against Toronto. I think they'll keep him in the back pocket in case things go haywire like they did last weekend. And then for Charlotte, one of the best in the league, Christian Kalina in goal, Nathan Byrne right back. I think that's going to be Tim Ream, Andrew Privet in the center defense, Harry Toffolo left back, Brett Bronico and Ashley Westwood, the double pivot behind Pep Biel. Right wing, Leo Labada. Striker, Iran Toklamadi, and left wing, the main man for Charlotte, Wilfred Zaha. I think this could be the game that finally gets Zaha going. So I'm going to go with a score prediction. I'm going to say 2-2. I think Zaha finally gets on the score sheet this season. I think Toklamadi does as well, with the Red Bulls missing the two starting center backs. And I think finally we're going to see the wingers score. I've been predicting this for like 3 weeks straight, and I've been wrong each time. But I'm going to stick to my guns. Ruvalcaba to score. And Cade Cowell to score. Both wingers are going to score in this one for the Red Bulls, Michael. I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. Give me a score prediction.
I got a 1-1 draw. I got
1-1.
a 1-1 draw. I feel like this is the type of game where a defender is going to score. Like it's
Ooh,
just
I like that.
It's just one of those games where, dude, I just saw like 3 defenders score in the Open Cup last night, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to keep riding that right now. It just
Wait.
What?
Keep going.
Oh, I thought you said wait. But so it's I just give me someone like Ruddy to get his first goal, or Che,
I'm going to say Marshall-Rutty I like because he spent part of last season on loan at Charlotte, and that would be a nice homecoming gift for the newly called up Canadian international. And you mentioned seeing defenders score in the Open Cup. It's an exciting time to have you on the show, Michael, because I know how much of an Open Cup sicko you are, like myself. We've got several New York area teams that played in round one: Westchester SC, FC Motown, SC Vistula Garfield. New York Renegades play tonight against Westchester, I believe.
Yep.
So a lot of exciting stuff. Of course, when this comes out, that match will already have been completed. We saw valiant efforts from the New Jersey amateur sides. FC Motown fell 2-0 to Hartford Athletic of the USL Championship. Vistula, who I had the privilege of commentating their final qualifier to get into the Open Cup, so I was excited to see them play. Shout out former Red Bulls draft pick, former Rutgers starting striker, Christopher Kars, who at 42 years of age still leads the line for Vistula. They went out to a great start. They opened up the scoring in under a few minutes, a 1-0 lead over Knoxville
the first
SC.
minute, dude.
Yeah, against Knoxville SC, the reigning champions of USL League One. They ended up losing 3-1. They're out of the tournament, but still a great showing. from some of the amateur New Jersey sides. Michael, your thoughts so far early on, and what storylines should we be following here in round one of the Open Cup?
Storylines. First off, I was in person. I was watching FC Motown take on Hartford Athletic. First off, John Tolkien's brother played for Motown last night. Peter Tolkien. He was a second half substitute in the 67th minute. Looked good. A couple other Rutgers guys took the field for Motown. Tino Jansen and former New York Red Bulls the first player to ever go from the academy to the first team to the second team, I should say. Um, uh, I can't remember. Eric Ruiz. Sorry, my brain stopped for a second. Yeah, Ruiz played well. I will say that Motown had a really interesting team. They played well because Hartford only got their goals on set pieces. So what does that tell you? The amateurs were holding them off pretty well enough. Couldn't find the back in that. There were chances for them. Hartford played a lineup where 4 or 5 players got their pro debuts. They rotated, and they were still able to do that on the NJIT field. Which, by the way, NJIT, very nice facility. Gotta awesome. Shout that one out. Also, tonight's game against Renegades versus Westchester is my prediction for a cup set, because you have the team who won the UPSL national title this past. It's the fall season, but it ended in February. They just won it, and Westchester is the defending wooden spoon winner in USL League One. It just feels like, and they fired all their head coaches, and they lost their leading goal scorer to Brooklyn. So they're mostly college kids from LIU, Iona, St. John's. That's most of their team is young and just getting their start. Renegades is a super team of amateurs, probably one of the best amateur teams in the New York City area. That's the game that's going to end in a cup set for me, and I'm calling that a 2-1 Renegades win.
And I love that. I've commentated Renegades before. They play really, really good soccer. For amateur team, those guys live and breathe the sport. Those guys absolutely have professional mentalities, even though they're playing for arguably one of the top amateur teams in the country. I like that pick for a cup set. Hopefully, when this episode comes out and that has happened, we're talking about it in hindsight. There were some cup sets in round one. I think the highest profile one was Vermont Green FC of USL2, who, Vermont soccer is just awesome right now. They beat Portland Hearts of Pine, who actually defeated the Cosmos in the opening match of the USL League One season. Mm-hmm. Vermont Green, coming off of the USL2 championship, Vermont University coming off of the NCAA championship a year ago, they just keep riding the high, and then they get a cup set over a pro team in the New England matchup. Love seeing that there. I don't believe that was the only cup set of the round.
Asheville City last night. Asheville City, another USL League 2 team, defeated Greenville Triumph SC of USL League 1. That was a very interesting game because Asheville, who's the host team, and let's not forget, Asheville has not had it easy as a city lately. Last year, they had those horrible floods. They had all those landslides, things like that. That team became, a big community thing. It was already a community thing, but, organizing relief efforts, things like that. So they hosted that game against Greenville, another South Carolina team, came out to a fast lead. Greenville equalized, and then they scored 2 to get that cup set, which I think might be their first ever cup set. That's just really good for them. Really awesome. Happy for them. And the other things I want to point out was that last night Chattanooga FC played a team called Kalanji Pro Profile.
Yeah, I want to talk about this one.
Yeah, because as I was covering my game, I was watching that a little bit, and early on, Kalanji gets a PK. And it gets blocked. Chattanooga FC playing MLS Next Pro. They're one of the few independent teams in MLS Next Pro. They block the PK. Ball goes out. Ball gets blocked, goes back out of the box. 14-year-old kid named Brandon Kalanji, same name as the team, just chips everybody and sends it in the top right corner. Goes over, good finish. Goes over and hugs his coach, who's also named Kalanji. As the GM watches, who's also named Kalanji, And it's just, oh, this is just the best because this kid is the youngest goal scorer since like 95 in like the modern era. And
Crazy.
his team is literally his team is literally his family. I'm like, that is, oh, that's so great because it's dumb.
This is why 111 editions of this tournament, and they need to preserve this tradition. I'm sorry. Leagues Cup, I get it. Like, whatever, you MLS against League MX. The fact that they are watering down this tournament more and more, they're never going to get rid of moments like this. And
Yeah.
like for me, like that was enough to convince me that this tournament needs to be preserved so much more. We could talk for an hour and a half about why the U.S. Open Cup shouldn't be watered down. But yes,
And
jump
there's
in.
actually one more cup set I'll mention. Last night, there was a UPSL team that beat AV Alta FC of USL League One,
Mhm.
Valley 559, which shout out their 1-0 win came off a goal from Quincy
America. Yeah,
Ameriqua. God, I always screw up his name.
tough one.
He is such a journeyman. I
Yeah.
forgot that he like last he played pro was in 2021. He is 38 now, and that man just scored a game winner in the 67th minute against a pro team. That's awesome.
And that wasn't the only dramatic game out in California. A battle of Northern California, Sacramento Republic, who are
Oh
previous
God.
finalists of this competition, were taken to extra time by El Farolito, another Bay Area NPSL team. That game was 0-0 into extra time. There was a red card. Sacramento Republic ended up scoring twice. And that game ended up with even more cards shown because there were some fights on the pitch, which we never like to see. But I mean, that's passion. That's football.
Did you ever you didn't go to the Motown final against El Faro, did you?
I did not. So can you fill
So
me in?
so this team, as someone who's watched this team both in person and I've covered them a little bit, like that's just their style. And I shouldn't be mean. Like they are the and as someone whose family has been around soccer, even my father watched it, he goes, yeah, I've seen that type of play before because they weren't surprised, they were not scared to go physical. And
Hmm.
they would play that street soccer. They would play that aggressive soccer, and it works. It wins them Golden Gate Conference championships over in MPSL. It gets them past pro teams and other teams in the Open Cup. That's why they were the John Moda champions as the farthest reaching amateur team. It's it, I'm not defending going into the stands and fighting people at all. I will say that I'm not surprised that it happened because that's the type of team that they are. And on the field, it works. And then when they lose, I'm not surprised that this happens.
Yeah. Well, ugly ending, but otherwise very exciting first round match. The one match that I had to live tweet and put up a blurb for the Cup.us. Shout out to the Cup.us, one of the greatest source for the Open Cup, one of the greatest American soccer sources, bar none. I wanted to watch the reigning Amateur Cup champions, Westchester United, against Loudoun United, former DC United affiliate in the USL Championship. They've got a habit of having some old MLS stars in their team, namely for Red Bulls fans, Florian Valot, although he's plays for Oakland Roots now. Westchester played them straight up, and I respected so much of that. A team that was mainly comprised of players. I think they had at least 5 players from Princeton in their starting 11. Jackson Martin, 18-year-old freshman from Princeton, scored the lone goal for Westchester. They lost 2-1 in the end, 2 early goals for Loudoun. But otherwise, Westchester were just as in that game as their professional opponents. They played them straight up. They, weren't afraid to take the game to their opponents. They hit crossbars in the end. They were close to making it level. Just didn't have enough, and that's often what happens with a lot of the stronger amateur teams is that the footballing ability is not that much different. It's the physicality, it's the athleticism, it's the mentality, it's being able to hang with them for 90 minutes. They didn't quite have that, but they showed a lot of heart. And there's a reason why they're undefeated in their APSL season to this point, and why they're maybe the best amateur team in the country, Westchester.
Blaise Santiangelo is like one of the better head coaches, maybe one of the best amateur head coaches I've seen because he's also a GM of that team.
Mm-hmm.
And while other amateur teams will struggle to get their players because of college commitments, especially the ones who go through like NPSL or USL League Two, because the college rules doesn't let you use your player. You can't do anything without explicit permission before like April 10th or whatever. He won't ever have that because his program is like 400 player deep, and it shows because he'll just have an A lineup no matter what time of year it is because his program is year round.
And that team technically was qualified through USL of PA, the United Soccer League of Pennsylvania, but they also field in the NPSL and, as I mentioned, in the APSL. That's the organization that they have, the ability to play year round,
And USL2.
and USL2, exactly.
And they have two MPSL teams.
Yeah, that's crazy. Good for Westchester. I wish they had gotten a result, but they showed the country, they showed American soccer fandom why they belong in these types of tournaments. I imagine they will be back next year. Of course, they won't be back as the John Moda champions. There's a few candidates left for that, and it'll be interesting to see who snatches up that trophy. Of course, Westchester SC versus NY Renegades is the other New York area match kicking off tonight. By the time you are watching this or listening to this, the result will have come in. And then otherwise from New York State, Flower City Union, Rochester, New York, NPSL Legends. They play tonight as well, I believe, or maybe they play.
They play tonight.
They might. Okay, so they play tonight as well. An exciting one for sure. And there's also continental soccer going on. Of course, the UEFA Champions League, but CONCACAF Champions Cup. We saw Inter Miami get eliminated by Nashville SC. We saw San Diego squander a lead to Toluca, who are the best team in the continent by a wide margin. So much exciting soccer, folks. If you're not tuned in on the soccer right now, you should be. I don't know what to tell you. Michael Battista, thank you so much for jumping on the show and providing some of your U.S. Open Cup expertise. So much interesting stuff just then. You call it for Red Bulls versus Charlotte. You said 1-1 draw. Mm-hmm. And yep. I say a 2-2 draw. Michael Battista of New York Sports Nation, thank you so much for coming on, man.
Thanks for having me.
And that will do it for episode 11 of Empire Soccer Report. I've been James Birle. Michael Battista of NY Sports Nation was my guest. Thank you so much, Mike, for coming on. And thank you, folks, for listening and watching. See you next time on Empire Soccer Report.